Captain Peleg, said Bildad steadily, thy conscience may be drawn 10 inches of water, or 10 fathoms, I can't tell. But as thou art still an impenitent man, Captain Peleg, I greatly fear lest thy conscience be but a leaky one, and will in the end sink thee foundering down to the fiery pit, Captain Peleg. Fiery pit! Fiery pit! Ye insult me, man. Past all natural bearing ye insult me. It's an all-fired outrage to tell any human creature that he's bound to hell. Flukes and flames. Bildad, say that again to me and start my soul. Chapter 10. A Bosom Friend. Returning, Queequeg was George. Then, spreading them on the table and mechanically dividing them into 2, and more than that, still better than they were. Now a certain grand merchant ship once touched at the same foam fountain Queequeg seemed to drink and reel with me. But it so happened just then that it was high time for the captain to mind his own eye. The prodigious strain upon the mainsail had parted the weather sheet, and the tremendous boom was now flying from side to side, completely sweeping the entire after part of the deck. The poor fellow whom Queequeg had handled so roughly was swept overboard. And in all seasons and all oceans declared everlasting war with the mightiest animated mass that has survived the flood, the most monstrous and most mountainous, that Himalayan salt sea mastodon, clothed with such portentousness of unconscious power that his very panics are more to be dreaded than his most fearless and malicious assaults. And thus have these naked Nantucketers, these sea hermits, issuing from their anthill in the sea, overrun and conquered the watery world like so many Alexanders, parceling out among them the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans as the 3 pirate powers did Poland. Let America add Mexico to Texas and pile Cuba upon Canada. Let the English overswarm all India and hang out their blazing banner from the sun. 2/3 of this terraqueous globe are the Nantucketers. For the sea is his. He owns it, as emperors own empires, other seamen having but a right of way through it. Merchant ships are but extension bridges, armed ones but floating forts. Even pirates and privateers, though following the sea as highwaymen the road, they but plunder other ships, other fragments of the land like themselves, without seeking to draw their living from the bottomless deep itself. The Nantucketer, he alone resides and riots on the sea. He alone, in Bible language, goes down to it in ships, to and fro plowing it as his own special plantation. There is his home. There lies his business, which a Noah's flood would not interrupt, though it overwhelmed all the millions in China. He lives on the sea as prairie cocks in the prairie. He hides among the waves. He climbs them as chamois hunters climb the Alps. For years he knows not the land, so that when he comes to it at last, it smells like another world, more strangely than the moon would to an earthsman. With the landless gull that at sunset folds her wings and is rocked to sleep between billows, so at nightfall the Nantucketer, out of sight of land, furls his sails and lays him to his rest, while under his very pillow rush herds of walruses and quails.
That's the hotel that Tina Turner ran to.
Chapter 15.
When she left
Chowder.
Ike.
It was quite late in the
This is
evening
the
when the
freeway.
little Moss came snugly to anchor, and Queequeg and I
somewhere
went
over here.
ashore. So we could attend to no business that day, at least none but a supper and a bed. The landlord of the Spouter Inn
Somewhere
had
over
recommended
here,
us
where
to his cousin Hosea Hussey of the Tripods. whom he asserted to be the proprietor of one of the best-kept hotels in all Nantucket. And moreover, he'd assured us that his cousin Hosea, as he called him, was famous for his chowders. In short, he plainly hinted that we couldn't possibly do better than try potluck at the tripods. But the directions he'd given us about keeping a yellow warehouse on our starboard hand till we opened a white church to the larboard, then keeping that on the larboard hand till we made a corner 3 points to the starboard, and that done, then asked the first man we met where the place was. These crooked directions of his very much puzzled us at first, especially as, at the outset, Queequeg insisted that the yellow warehouse, our first point of departure, must be left on the larboard hand, whereas I'd understood Peter Coffin to say it was on the starboard. However, by dint of beating